scene. And of course you can plan, and then the universe will mess with your plans. So the roller coaster is a very good example. That roller coaster in West Edmonton Mall, we had permission to film, but because they hadn't been running it during the pandemic, they hadn't done enough safety tests. They could run it without anybody on it for us, so that's how we got that shot of the kids looking at it. But then we weren't allowed to put any people on it because they hadn't done enough safety testing yet. But that became an opportunity, right? A problem like that is like, okay, how are we gonna solve this? So I have a friend in Winnipeg, his name is Mike Marinuk, and he's an animator who does like real low budget animations. And so I said, what could you do with like about $100, which is about what we had left? And so he went to the dollar store and he got some coroplast and made a tube and poked some holes and put Christmas lights and pulled the camera through a bunch of different times, a bunch of different ways, and gave us those plates that then we could overlay with our actors in the middle and create that abstraction, which I like better than if we just shot them on a roller coaster because it's more emotional. Thanks, that's a great question.
Oh, that's so cool, yeah.
Do you want the mic? Awesome.
So one thing I appreciate about the film is showing like queer and trans characters, and particularly queer and trans youth. And I know, one of the biggest issues you're facing right now is the state of homophobic and transphobic legislation, particularly targeting youth. And I'm wondering what you think about like cinema, its role in change, and does the film speak for itself as change, or do filmmakers need to do more?
Thank you. There's a lot of different ways to fight that fight. I personally, my skill set is in filmmaking, so that's what I can do to contribute. Other people are lawyers, I always feel like somebody's mind doesn't change about prejudice until they love somebody, right? And so, that's where coming out is important, because all of a sudden your family's gonna realize, one's family is gonna realize, this person I love is part of that group I hate. There's a dissonance there. It can end badly, but it'll always, push it forward. And for me, like cinema is, if people care about my characters, it's a little contribution. If I can make them care for the character, then that just increases empathy, right? Which is always the solution. Empathy and love is how you actually move forward. Yeah, all the way at the back. Do you want the mic?
Coming of age story, I was wondering, was it based on any truth, like your life story or something?
Yeah, for sure. I started off very. I'm gonna turn that off. That's this. I got about the loud voice too. We're gonna do it like this. Ooh, watch out. So you can maybe hear it. Okay. Are you videoing? In which case, I do not want to stand this close to you.
I am videoing.
Okay, then I'm gonna back up.
Okay.
Yeah, it started off entirely autobiographical.
Oh, finally.
Okay, so the question was it based on a true story? Yes, when I started writing, it was entirely autobiographical. And then as I started writing with my writing partner, whose name is Fish Krakowski, we started making it more semi-autobiographical, and then it became more semi than autobiographical. Now it's fiction, but I like to say it's no longer a true story of what happened, but it is a true story of how it felt. When I was that age in that part of the world in the 80s, I got a lot of, are you a boy or a girl? And I knew that the answer was bigger than I had words for. And I didn't have words for until now. There's this wonderfully handy word, non-binary, which the kids can use these days, and I'm jealous because I would have loved a word like that in the 80s. In the 80s, non-binary would sound like a computer word, which is why we made Robin's father an IT expert as a little in-joke for ourselves. But I don't even necessarily want to say Robin is a non-binary character. Technically they are. They sit down neither with the boys nor the girls, and then that's that. We never go back and address it more. But I don't think Robin has words yet for what their gender is, and so I didn't want the movie to force a gender on them, which is also why we avoided all gendered pronouns in the script. You can be sure that day, first day of school, by the end of the day, kids are either saying he or she when they're talking about Robin. But we thought, what if we don't point the movie at those parts, right? What happens if we just avoid that with the movie? So, started off autobiographical, turned into kind of formal experimenting, having a non-gendered protagonist whose gender is still functioning but is not labeled.
And how did you find that? Oh, I'm
I can
sorry.
come back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had two quick questions.
Yeah.
One was the two boys had a very similar look. Was that done on purpose or just that those were the two actors you liked?
Yeah, so I mean, first I'm going to start with the fact that you read them as two boys, which I love, and that's not a wrong thing, but that's always interesting to me to see how people are reading that character. So I'm not going to also say it's two boys, but it's cool that for you they were. And yeah, the look was on purpose because I remember that feeling of, am I attracted to this person? Do I want to be this person? There's some blend there for a lot of queer kids. And the mom of Carter, the sort of bully character, saw one of the final audition chemistry reads that we did and started preparing the kid to not get the part, like started explaining, sometimes you can be a very good actor and if you look too much like the other person, you just won't get the job. There's a lot of reasons. And then she was surprised when I actually gave the jobs to those two kids, even though they looked similar, because for me it added something. And I was able to do that thing on the roller coaster where they kind of started blending.
It just took me a little while to be sure I was recognizing which one was which in the beginning.
Fair.
And, you know, that may not have mattered to the impact of the movie. I just wondered if it was on purpose that they had somewhat of a similar.
Yeah, it is. And in fact, a reason like that is, like, it's the same reason you don't give characters too similar a name in a novel, right? And in a movie, often you'll cast people who look quite different from each other just so the audience can get in easier. But for me, I figured it was worth it to risk a bit of confusion at the start because the characters are confused too. And if it takes you a minute to get in, it's okay. It pays off for me.
And my second question was, if you were going to do a sequel, what would you see happening to the two boys and the girl? I'm going to say genders.
Sure.
The younger two boys, you know, two younger boys and a younger girl in the future.
What would you want to see?
That they, first of all, that they just are happy. You know, that they're happy. But I mean, the boy who liked the other boy then seemed very happy being with the girl, maybe just as a friend or something like that. And I was just wondering where they would kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer. It's left open on purpose. I asked the kids, hey, what do you think happens to your character in 10 years? My favorite answer was Carter, who played the bully. He said, well, maybe the lesson he learns is not to be vulnerable, and so he doubles down on being mean and manipulative and goes into finance. I actually loved that answer. It's on purpose that it's left open whether the kids can find happiness and redemption or not. Like, I didn't want an easy ending, so it's open. I like your idea. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's a nice way to think of those kids, so I like that too. You had one.
And this is our last question.
Oh, okay.
I just wondered how hard it was to find your Robin.
Yeah, I knew the movie would work or not work based on the kid I found to play Robin, because obviously I needed a kid with kind of a visually cryptic gender. So I knew I wanted a kid who themselves was either non-binary or trans, just for the authenticity of that part. We did a nationwide casting search, and then I found Vaughn, who plays Robin, and I knew I had the movie. So, yeah, but I knew that it was a risk, because you not only need a kid with that going on in their gender, but also the kid's in almost every scene. The kid has to be able to hold down a 90-minute movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky to find a kid who I think is that talented. Can we sneak one in?
Yeah.
Okay, sneak one in.
Did you film all 99 lashes?
We did not film all that. Thank you for asking. That's a good way. That's a good place to end.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.